This is video 3. We're still in the early history of anthropology, and now I want to introduce you to another theoretical framework called Social Darwinism. So as you listened to the video about social evolution, and I was saying things like, wow, these theorists said that some people were better than others, and some societies were civilized, whereas other societies were savage, you may have been thinking, wow, that sounds really racist. But technically speaking, that theory was not racist because theorists believe that all humans are the same human being and they're all equally capable of attaining civilization if they choose and if conditions are right and so forth and so on. So there's nothing inherent about quote unquote savages that will prevent them becoming quote unquote civilized someday. The next theoretical framework we're going to look at is explicitly racist. It's an example of scientific racism, which was an important set of theories during this time as well. So social Darwinists basically took social evolution and added the component of race to it. All right, so far we've looked at evolution and social evolution, also called evolutionism, unilinear evolution. There are lots of names for it. Social Darwinism is a theory of cultural change, a kind of social evolution, positing that inferior groups of people remain inferior because of their biological differences, which came to be called race, and that favored races would inevitably supplant the unfavorable ones through the process of survival of the fittest. Now, survival of the fittest is a term coined by Herbert Spencer, who was a social Darwinist. It's not a term coined by Charles Darwin. Charles Darwin and Herbert Spencer were cousins, and they were in the same conversations about evolution and social evolution. And Darwin later used the term survival of the fittest, but it was coined by Herbert Spencer. And basically his idea was that these favored races would outcompete the unfavored ones through their genetic biological superiority. So again, social Darwinism was part of a set of theories under the rubric of biological determinism, later called scientific racism. And they put biology at the center of their, biology and race at the center of their understandings of how evolution, social evolution worked. So let's make a definition of race for this class. We'll come back to it again and again. The most basic definition, we could say, and then we'll play around with it a little bit, is that race is a powerful category that differentiates groups of people based on physical characteristics and their relationships to behavioral differences. This is kind of a basic racist definition of race. This is the definition of race used by social Darwinists. But anthropologists today would add a couple of key words and phrases to this definition. So first of all, we would say race is a powerful social and cultural category. It is socially, historically, and culturally constructed, meaning that we give it meaning. We create the category socially. A powerful social and cultural category that, while having no correspondence with material reality, differentiates groups of people based on observable physical characteristics such as skin color, hair type, facial features, and their presumed relationships to behavioral differences. So race becomes something that we make up as a society where we take something absolutely meaningless like skin color and we say, oh, if someone has this skin color, they have this behavior. If this group of people has this skin color and hair type instead of facial features, they will behave like savages. Whereas this group of people with this other skin color instead of facial features and hair type will have civilized behavioral differences. So you can see how race comes into social evolution theory through social Darwinism and says that being civilized or savage or barbarian is not coincidental. It's tied to these meaningless biological characteristics such as skin color. Okay, at least that's our modern way of looking at it. But at the time, social Darwinists took things like skin color very seriously. So in social Darwinism, races could be categorized along a spectrum from inferior to superior, which matched savage, barbarian, and civilized. And later on in social Darwinism, there was a belief that eugenics could be used to eliminate inferior races. So if biologically we're trying to get the superior races to outcompete the inferior ones, well, then let's use a little genocide. Let's use a little sterilization. Let's use a little starvation and inoculation of populations to get rid of some of the less desirable ones, so that the rest of us can be civilized. This was the most nefarious thinking that came along in social Darwinism, and it was the logical extreme of Darwinism. So here's another little video about the world's greatest fair that kind of explains how this tied in with the fair. Where's my browser? Whoops, not there. All right, here we go. Sorry about that.
They were designed to achieve a visual perfection. Gardens, fountains, waterways, statuary. They had their amusements, the long strip of sideshows, attractions, and dancing girls. But the dominating images of the world's fairs of the late 19th and early 20th centuries were the dazzling structures built beyond human scale. For these were palaces fitting a great civilization. This was 1904, a brand new century, and these were temples of progress. The outside was all beauty. The inside was all business, industry, art, and agriculture. Buildings were filled with steam engines, dynamos, wires, and wireless communication. There were working factories, working schools, working hospitals, even a working mine. Compare, the organizers said, all that we have done with the primitive, the backward, the unclothed, whose villages we have transported to these fairgrounds. Later generations would find their displays insensitive, their social science flawed, but those who staged them were unapologetic in their sense of cultural and racial superiority. The promise and potential of America seemed unlimited. In 1904, in St. Louis, perhaps as never again in that brand new century, there was a display of pride and confidence and optimism for what lay ahead.